Hey everyone, Richard Middlefan here, continuing the Slayer discography, and I figured, and this is actually coincidental because today is the 30th anniversary of this album, and as you clearly see below the title, we're going to be talking about South of Heaven by Slayer. They're overall the band's fourth album, released on July 5th, 1988, through American Records. Now, having created one of the most legendary thrash metal albums ever with their previous album, 1986, Rain and Blood, but the pressure for Slayer to deliver with sort of like the fall was kind of overwhelming, and I'm sure a lot of fans just wanted Rain and Blood Part 2 with sort of like this same short and short, simple, fast, punk, and hardcore influences for songwriting. Fortunately, the band sort of knew that they would never outdo like Rain in its intensity, and didn't wish to stagnate sort of like creatively. And so he took like a device out of left field approach with this album, South of Heaven, which is an obvious right turn from the first moments of the title track on here, which would be South of Heaven. Then, like, instead of like the previous album where it opened up with Angel of Death, like blasted guitars shredding, we get sort of like a slow, clean, echoing guitar line that is almost leisure in tempo with sort of like what lacks in the heaviness, and it makes up with more of the sheer evilness and sort of like a spine chill factor. And it's sort of like a big change right off of coming off of the almighty Rain and Blood. And I know, but sort of like compared to like that and Angel of Death, it really gets more of the original memorable way to start off the album, and the song keeps going strong again with sort of like Dave's sort of like highly fluid, new groovy type of drumming, and sort of like Tom's haunting, venom infused vocal work. And yeah, just like if you're expecting like Rain and Blood Part 2, you're kind of wrong. Like, this is pretty much like Slayer sort of like decided to do something different. You could definitely tell it's like sort of like decided to like smack you in the face and come up with something different with this album. And it's sort of like the next song, Silent Scream, is kind of like immediately just kicks you in afterwards, and unbelievably just furious pummeling of riffing and sort of like insane double bass work. And if you're a fan hoping to hear more like blistering fast material on South of Heaven, then there's no way you won't like Silent Scream. And this doesn't let up for like a second, and it has the most intense solo the band has ever recorded, and it's just, in my honest opinion, I think this is pretty much the most underrated Slayer song in my opinion. It's just that good. Next up is Live Undead, which is one of my top favorite Slayer songs of all time. It is a great meeting point between the sensibilities of like the title track and Silent Scream. It begins with some ominous, slower guitar line, and it keeps the tempo down in its first half, but then let loose with sort of like a relentless shred fest during the second half, making two very different tastes work perfectly together. Then we go into Behind the Crooked Cross. The album hit sort of like its first speed bump with riffs that failed to hook, and sort of like very inadequate, ill-advised attempt at sort of like clean singing from Mariah, which he kind of sounds kind of bored here, which is just And I just didn't really think that song was that good. But yeah, just Slayer fans, please don't get mad at me when I say that. Mandatory Suicide, I think, is pretty much a good redeeming song. It's a little bit better, but I feel like it suffers from the clean singing, which overall I think it kind of like lacks intensity on here, and Crooked Cross as well. Yeah, but fortunately, despite like the annoyingly muted intro, Ghost of War gets the album back up to speed, both figuratively and lyrically. It still isn't quite as good as like the opening trilogy, but it'll more than do, especially coming in with the last two duds. Read Between the Lines is on the same level of sort of like quality, and Cleanse the Soul is even better. So I have nothing but good to say about those songs. It's just really good. And then we go into Distant Aggressor, which is actually a cover song originally done by the almighty Judas Priest. I feel like some people say it was somewhat unnecessary. It has sort of like a no spacey synth intro, and I could sort of like see like Tom sort of like doing like the whole high falsetto similar to Rob Halford, but yeah. And then the album closes with Spill the Blood, and I actually think it's a pretty great way to end this album. It closes the album off really well with sort of like more delicious, evil opening guitar and sort of like a compelling slow pacing. Now overall, I believe South of Heaven is sort of like a different approach to the almighty Rain and Blood. Like they like doing like a little bit slower songs, sort of like different stuff that'll like pretty much wow, like be like, the hell is this? But overall, it's a pretty solid, like, this album. It's a pretty good album. One of Slayer's classics. If I were to give this album a score, probably give this a solid 8 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of South of Heaven, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this album, and I'll see you all in the next album review of the discography, and keep it metal.